Zara had never seen a human before today. She had only heard stories, terrifying tales told among her people about the soft-skinned aliens who had mysteriously appeared in their galaxy 5 cycles ago. Stories about their strange abilities, their cunning minds, and most disturbingly, their appetite for other sentient beings. The Kreeth Empire had captured Zara 3 months ago when her research vessel strayed too close to their territory. Now she sat in a cold metal cell, her blue-scaled body, shivering not from the temperature but from fear as the guards dragged in another prisoner. "This one is special," the head guard Mortz announced with a cruel laugh in his guttural voice. "We caught her ship trying to infiltrate our defense perimeter. She claims to be a diplomat." His 4 yellow eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of amusement among the Kreeth. "Perhaps you two can diplomatically share this cell." The new prisoner stood barely reaching the guard's massive armored chest. Her skin was a pale pink color with patches of brown across her face. Her hair, a strange fibrous growth on her head, was a golden color falling to her shoulders. She had only 2 eyes, small round things that seemed to take in everything at once. But what struck Zara most was how fragile the creature looked. No protective scales, no extra limbs, nothing that would help her survive in a harsh environment. When the guards left, sealing the heavy door behind them, Zara pressed herself against the far wall. Her dorsal spines rose in defensive posture, all 4 of her eyes fixed on the human. The human noticed Zara's reaction and raised her empty hands in what must have been a calming gesture among her kind. "My name is Heather," she said, in surprisingly clear speech. "Heather Morgan. I'm a diplomatic envoy from Earth." Zara remained silent, her secondary heart beating rapidly beneath her chest plates. "I'm not going to hurt you." The human continued, taking a seat on the floor, her back against the wall opposite. "Zara, I promise." "Promises mean nothing in prison." Zara finally replied, her voice trembling slightly. "You are human." "Yes," Heather confirmed, tilting her head. "I am." "Is that a problem? You eat prisoners?" Zara blurted the words, escaping before she could stop. "Them." The human's face changed, her eyes widening and her mouth forming a small circle. "What? No, we don't." "That's ridiculous. Who told you that?" "Everyone knows," Zara said defensively. "You humans consume the flesh of intelligent beings. That's why the Dravek fear you. That's why they formed an alliance with my people against your kind." Heather sighed deeply, running a hand through her strange hair fibers. "Is that what they're saying about us?" She shook her head. "That explains a lot, actually. No wonder diplomacy has been so difficult." "You deny it?" Zara asked, still keeping her distance. "Of course I deny it," Heather replied. "We eat plants and some animals from our world, but never ever sentient beings. That would be horrific by our own moral standards." Zara wasn't convinced. The stories were too widespread to be completely false. "You fought the Dravek fleet and they disappeared. Their entire battalion gone without a trace." "Yes, we fought them," Heather admitted after a long pause. "We won too, but we didn't eat them. We sent the survivors home before Zara could respond." The cell door opened again and Guard Captain Moores entered, his massive body barely fitting through the doorway. "Time for your processing, human," he growled. 2 guards followed behind him, each carrying shock sticks, weapons capable of incapacitating even the largest prisoners. Heather didn't move from her seated position. "I believe there's been a misunderstanding," she said calmly. "I've already explained to your superiors that I'm here as a diplomatic envoy. My ship was on a sanctioned route." The captain made a rumbling sound deep in his throat. "That's not what our sensors indicated. Your ship was running dark, following one of our supply vessels. That's because your supply vessel fired on us without warning," Heather replied, her voice still calm but firm. "We were following at a safe distance, trying to re-establish communications." "Get up," the guard ordered, ignoring her explanation. "The commander wants to see you." The human still didn't move. Instead, she looked directly at the guard captain. "You should know that my government knows exactly where I am," she said. "Our ships are already on their way." The guards laughed, their harsh sounds echoing in the small cell. No human ships have ever penetrated this deep into Kreeth space. One of them said, The nearest human outpost is 3 systems away. Heather smiled a strange expression that showed her flat white teeth. You might be surprised at how fast humans can move when motivated, she said. Something about her confidence made the guards hesitate. Zara watched fascinated as the mighty Kreth warriors seemed uncertain in the face of this small, unarmed creature. Take her, Captain Moores finally ordered. The 2 guards moved forward, shock sticks raised. That's a mistake, Heather said, still not moving. Do you know what happened to the last person who tried to use one of those on a human? The guards stopped looking to their captain for direction. The human continued, her voice taking on a different tone almost. Friendly, but with an edge that made Zara's scales tighten. We have an interesting defense mechanism. You see, when threatened, our bodies release certain chemicals. One makes your neural disruptors useless. Another makes our blood toxic to anyone who tries to consume it. Captain Moores made a dismissive gesture, but Zara noticed his outer membrane paling, a sign of fear among the Kreth. Stop your lies, human, he said. But his voice lacked conviction. I'm simply offering information, Heather replied. You can test it if you want. But the last guard who did lost an arm. The chemicals in our skin, you see. Very corrosive to Kreth biology. The guards looked at each other, then at their captain. Captain Moores seemed to be calculating something in his mind. Finally, he gestured toward the door. We'll return with proper containment equipment, he muttered before leading his guards out. The door sealed shut behind them. Heather turned to Zara, a small smile on her face. So, about that eating prisoners. Rumor Zara could hardly believe what she'd just witnessed. Was that true? She asked what you told them about your blood and skin. Heather laughed, a musical sound that surprised Zara. Not at all. But the Kreth don't know that. They believe anything if you say it, with enough confidence. And someone has been spreading very useful rumors about humans' realization, dawned on Zara. You started the stories about humans eating prisoners. Heather nodded, moving closer to Zara, who no longer felt afraid of the small alien. My people never harmed the Dravek. We defeated them, yes. But it was their pride that was wounded, not their bodies. The stories about us being dangerous predators serve a purpose. They keep others from attacking us. But why would they believe such things? Zara asked, curious now rather than frightened. Surely they must have evidence. Evidence can be manipulated, Heather said. And fear is a powerful motivator for belief. The Dravek attacked us first. We defended ourselves. But rather than admit defeat, they spread stories that we were monsters. It served their purpose, and honestly it served ours too. The ship suddenly shuddered violently. The lights flickered and distant alarms began to wail. What's happening? Zara asked, her spines rising again in alarm. Heather stood calmly, dusting off her simple uniform. Probably my rescue team, she said. My people don't leave their own behind. More explosions rocked the prison station. Zara could hear shouting in the corridors outside their cell. You knew they were coming, Zara said, understanding now why the human had been so confident. Heather nodded. The translator implanted in my ear also works as a tracker, she explained. And unlike the rumors suggest, we don't leave potential allies behind either. She extended her hand toward Zara. Would you like to see how humans really live? Zara hesitated only briefly before taking the offered hand. Her blue-scaled fingers contrasting against the human's pink skin. Outside explosions continued to rock the prison as the human rescue team fought their way in. Zara had spent her life studying different species, but never had she encountered one as strange as these humans. They seemed physically weak, yet possessed a confidence that bordered on recklessness. They faced threats, not with natural weapons but with intelligence and technology. And most intriguing of all, despite the rumors of their savagery, they appeared to value compassion. Perhaps the stories were wrong about humans, Zara thought. Or perhaps there was more to these strange aliens than anyone had bothered to learn. The door to their cell began to glow red as something cut through it from the outside, and Zara realized she was about to find out. The cell door melted inward, a perfect circle appearing in its center as superheated metal dripped to the floor. Zara instinctively moved behind Heather, using the small human as a shield against whatever might come through. 3 figures pushed through, the opening each wearing sleek black armor that covered them completely. Unlike the bulky exoskeletons of the Kreth, these suits seemed to move with their wearers like a second skin. The visors on their helmets glowed with a soft blue light. Heather, Morgan. One of them called out, a feminine voice coming through speakers on the helmet. Found you, the human smiled, stepping forward without fear. These are my friends, she told Zara. They're here to rescue us. Zara questioned her, 4 eyes blinking. In confusion, why would humans rescue a Zalarian scientist? They were supposed to be enemies according to everything she had been told. Heather turned back to Zara, her expression serious. I told you we don't leave allies behind. And I think you could be an ally. She extended her hand again. Come with us unless you prefer staying in a Kreth prison. The decision wasn't difficult. Zara took the human's hand again and allowed herself to be led toward the rescuers. One of the armored humans handed Heather a small weapon and what appeared to be a communication device. 2 more coming down the east corridor, the human reported. The station is on high alert. We need to move fast. Another said, this one with a deeper voice suggesting it might be male. Stay close and follow our lead. Zara had never seen combat before. Her people, the Zalarians, were scientists and explorers, not warriors. The idea of fighting their way off a Kreth prison station seemed impossible. Yet these humans moved with practiced efficiency, checking corners, communicating with hand signals, and advancing through the corridors, as if they had done this many times before. They encountered the first resistance at a junction where 3 Kreth guards had set up a defensive position. The guards fired their weapons, energy bolts sizzling through the air. The humans pushed Zara and Heather behind a support column, taking cover themselves behind various barriers. The firefight was brief and decisive. The humans used some kind of stun weapons that dropped the much larger Kreth guards without killing them. Stunning them is faster than killing the female human, explained when Zara looked questioningly at the unconscious guards. Less resistance overall if they know we aren't here to slaughter them. That wasn't what Zara had been wondering. She'd been surprised that the humans hadn't killed the guards at all. The stories said humans enjoyed killing, that they took pleasure in dominating other species. But these humans seemed to be using minimum force. They moved quickly through the station, encountering more resistance as they went. Each time the humans efficiently neutralized the threat without killing when possible. When they had to use lethal force, they did so quickly without hesitation or apparent enjoyment. The station rocked again, this time more violently. Zara nearly lost her footing, but one of the armored humans caught her, steadying her with a surprisingly gentle grip. That's our diversion, the human said. The voice belonged to the female who had first greeted Heather. We have a ship docked at Emergency Airlock 7. That's where we're headed. How did you find this place? Zara asked as they moved through another corridor. This station is supposed to be secret. One of the humans made a sound that might have been a laugh. We followed the supply ships. The Kreth aren't as careful as they think they are. They reached a large open area, what appeared to be a mess hall for the prison guards. Several Kreth looked up. In surprise as the group entered, the humans reacted instantly, spreading out and firing their stun weapons. Before the guards could even reach for their own weapons, they were unconscious on the floor. Zara was impressed, despite herself. These humans moved like a single organism, anticipating each other's actions without speaking. They were smaller, weaker, and by all accounts should have been easy prey for the Kreth. Yet they were cutting through the station's defenses with minimal effort. More guards appeared at the far end of the mess hall. These ones were ready, weapons already drawn. The humans pushed Zara and Heather behind a metal serving counter as energy bolts tore through the air around them. This might get complicated, one of the humans muttered. The mess hall is too open, not enough cover. I have an idea, Heather said suddenly. She turned to Zara. What do the Kreth believe about humans? She asked. Do they believe the same stories about us eating prisoners? Zara nodded. The Kreth believe all the stories. They're why the guards were so afraid of you earlier. Perfect. Heather grinned, that strange human expression again. She reached into a pocket and pulled out a small red packet. Breaking it open, she smeared the contents on her face and hands. What are you doing? the female human asked, creating a diversion. Heather replied, "Now when I stand up, don't shoot, unless you have to." Before anyone could stop her, Heather rose from behind the counter, her face and hands now covered in what looked like red blood. She let out a terrifying scream that echoed through the mess hall. The guards faltered, their weapons wavering. Heather began walking toward them slowly. Her blood-covered hands extended, her face contorted in an expression that made even Zara's scales tighten with fear. The human flesh-eater, one of the Kreth guards, whispered audibly, "She's killed her own kind." The guards began backing away, actual fear visible in their normally emotionless faces. Heather screamed again, a sound no Zalarian could make, a primal thing that seemed to bypass rational thought and trigger something deep and instinctual. The Kreth guards broke formation, running back the way they had come. The human rescue team burst out laughing once the guards were gone. "Nice performance," one of them said to Heather. "Who knew those stupid rumors would actually help us?" Heather wiped some of the red substance from her face. "It's just emergency medical gel," she explained to Zara. But they saw what they expected to see. They continued moving through the station, encountering less resistance now. Word seemed to be spreading about the blood-covered human, causing guards to avoid them when possible. The few who stood their ground were quickly stunned by the rescue team. Finally, they reached a small airlock. At the end of a narrow corridor, a sleek ship was visible through the small window, its design unlike anything Zara had seen before. Smooth and dark with no visible weapons, though she suspected they were there hidden beneath the elegant exterior. The female human placed her hand on a panel beside the airlock, and it slid open. "Home free," she said. As they prepared to board, alarms sounded again, but with a different pattern than before. The humans looked at each other, concern visible even through their helmets. "Station defenses are powering up," one said. "We need to leave now." They hurried through the airlock into the human ship. The interior was surprisingly comfortable with padded seats and soft lighting. Nothing like the utilitarian design of Zalarian vessels or the intimidating architecture favored by the Kreth strap in the female human, instructed, helping Zara into a seat that adjusted to accommodate her non-human form. The ship detached from the station with a soft shudder. And then they were moving. Zara could feel the acceleration, but it was gentler than she expected. The view screen showed the prison station growing smaller behind them, its weapon systems now fully online. Massive, cannons turning to track them. The human ship moved with incredible agility, dodging the first volley of energy weapons. Then space itself seemed to bend around them as the stars stretched into lines of light. "We're clear," the pilot announced. Zara had never experienced this kind of faster-than-light travel. Before she could ask questions, the stars returned to normal, though in an entirely different configuration. "Did we just jump?" Zara asked. Amazed Zalarians had theoretical models for such technology, but had never successfully implemented it. The energy requirements were thought to be impossible to meet. "Short-range jump," the human explained. "We'll make a series of them to throw off pursuit." Heather, now cleaned of the fake blood, came to sit beside Zara. "Welcome to the Starlight," she said with a smile. "This is one of our diplomatic vessels, though, as you've seen, it has some defensive capabilities." Zara looked around at the humans, who were now removing their helmets, revealing faces similar to Heather's. Some had darker skin, some lighter. Some had different colored hair, but all had the same basic features that marked them as human. "I don't understand," Zara said finally. "Why rescue me? I'm Zalarian. My government is aligned with the Dravek, against your people." Heather's expression became serious. "Because that alliance is based on lies," she said. "We believe if your people knew the truth, they might reconsider. And you're a scientist, aren't you? Someone who seeks truth." Zara nodded slowly. "Then perhaps you can help us share that truth," Heather continued. "And regardless, we couldn't leave you in that prison. The Kreth aren't known for their humane treatment of prisoners." The female human who had led the rescue approached, her helmet now removed, revealing short dark hair and brown skin. She extended a hand to Zara. "I'm Kate," she said. "Kate Bailey. Welcome aboard." Zara looked at the extended hand, then carefully took it, mimicking the greeting she had seen with Heather. "Thank you." she said simply, not knowing what else to say. Your people believe we're monsters, Kate said, her expression serious. We'd like the chance to show you otherwise. You're free to return to Zalarian space once we reach a neutral station if that's what you want, but we hope you'll consider staying long enough to learn the truth about humans. The human ship Starlight traveled through space, making a series of short jumps to throw off any potential pursuit. Zara spent most of her time in the observation room, a circular chamber with transparent walls that offered an unobstructed view of the stars. The humans had given her comfortable quarters, but she preferred this room where she could see the vastness of space. It reminded her of her research vessel before the Kreth had captured her. Heather joined her there on the third day, since their escape. She carried 2 containers of liquid, offering one to Zara. We synthesized this based on your biological profile, she explained. It should be compatible with your digestive system. Zara accepted the container cautiously. The clear, liquid inside smelled faintly sweet. She took a small sip and found it pleasant. The humans had been unfailingly polite since her rescue, providing her with appropriate food accommodations and even entertainment. They had not restricted her movements. On the ship, though, certain areas remained secure, requiring authorization she did not have. This seemed reasonable to Zara. Even Zalarian vessels had restricted areas, so Heather said, settling into a seat beside Zara. Do you have questions, I'm sure? You must. Zara had many questions, but was unsure where to begin. Finally, she asked, the rumors about humans, where did they really come from? Heather sighed, looking out at the stars. The Dravik started them, she said. When they first encountered our exploratory vessels, they assumed we would be easy to conquer. We're smaller than most spacefaring species, have no natural weapons or defenses, and come from what they considered a death world. A death world? Zara asked, unfamiliar with the term. Heather smiled. Earth is what we call a Class 4 gravity world, with extreme climate variations, massive tectonic activity, regular atmospheric disturbances, and an unusually diverse biosphere, including many predatory species. Most spacefaring civilizations evolved on much more stable worlds. Zara knew this was true. Her own people had evolved on a world with minimal seasonal changes, stable weather patterns, and few predators. The conditions Heather described sounded nightmarish. The Dravik attacked one of our colonies. Heather continued. They expected an easy victory. Instead, they found that evolution on a death world had given humans certain advantages. We're adaptable, resourceful, and much more durable than we appear. What happened? Zara asked. We defended ourselves, Heather said simply. We didn't have the technology the Dravik had, but we improvised. The Dravik weren't prepared for our tactics. They expected us to fight conventionally, ship to ship. We didn't. The Dravik were defeated. Zara said. It was more statement than question. Yes, Heather confirmed. But rather than admit they had been outmaneuvered by a species they considered inferior, they began spreading stories that we were savage, unpredictable, that we consumed our enemies. It served their purpose, making others fear alliance with us, and honestly, it served our purpose too. Fear kept other species from attacking us while we established our position in the galactic community, so you let the rumors continue. Zara observed. Heather nodded. We didn't start them, but we didn't work very hard to dispel them either. Not until recently. Now that we're more established, we're trying to build genuine diplomatic relationships. That's more difficult when everyone thinks you eat sentient beings. The ship's communication system activated. Kate's voice coming through the speakers. Heather, we're approaching the neutral station ETA 20 minutes. Thank you, Kate. Heather responded. She turned to Zara. This is where you can choose to leave us if you wish. The station has regular transport to Zalarian space. Zara considered this. She could return to her people, share what she had learned, but would they believe her? One experience with a few humans wasn't enough to counter years of propaganda, especially coming from someone who might be seen as compromised after being rescued by those same humans. If I stay, what happens next? She asked. We continue to our main diplomatic vessel, the Freedom, Heather explained. You'll meet more humans, learn more about us, and perhaps help us establish communication with your government. They might be more willing to listen to one of their own scientists. Before Zara could respond, The ship shuddered violently. Alarms blared throughout the vessel. "What's happening?" Zara asked her. Dorsal spines rising in alarm, Heather was already moving toward the door. "Follow me," she called. "We need to get to secure positions." They rushed through the corridors, crew members running to their stations around them. The ship rocked again more violently. This time Zara would have fallen if Heather hadn't caught her. They made it to the bridge, the command center of the vessel. Kate was there already issuing orders to the crew. The main view screen showed 3 larger ships approaching their distinctive, angular design, marking them as Dravek vessels. "How did they find us?" Kate demanded. "Unknown," one of the crew responded. "We've detected no tracking devices, and our jump pattern should have been impossible to predict." The lead Dravek ship fired again, the energy weapon impacting the Starlight's shields. The entire vessel shuddered. "Shields at 60%, another crew member reported. "We can't take much more of that. Their weapons are significantly stronger than our defensive capabilities options." Kate asked, her voice calm despite the situation. "We could make another jump," the pilot suggested. "But we'd need at least 30 seconds to charge the drive. They could cripple us before then. We could surrender," another crew member said. "The Dravek might be willing to negotiate." Kate shook her head. "No. The Dravek don't negotiate, especially not with humans. They want this ship destroyed, and all evidence of their attack on us gone." Zara watched the humans work, feeling helpless. The Dravek ships were closing, in their weapons charging for another volley. If the Starlight was destroyed, she would die alongside these humans who had rescued her. "Wait," she said suddenly, drawing everyone's attention. "I might be able to help." How? Kate asked without hesitation. "The Dravek use a specific communication frequency to coordinate their attack formations," Zara explained. "If we can broadcast a disruption signal on that frequency, it might buy us time." "Can you do that?" Kate asked. "I need access to your communication systems," Zara said. Kate nodded to one of the crew. "Get her whatever she needs." The crew member led Zara to a communication station, explaining the basic controls. The human technology was different from what she was used to, but the principles were similar enough. Zara worked quickly, entering a series of commands. The Dravek vessels fired again, the impact throwing several crew members from their seats. "Shields at 30%. Someone reported structural damage on decks 4 through 6. Zara finished her work and activated the signal. A high-pitched whine emitted from the communication array directed at the Dravek ships. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then the Dravek vessels seemed to falter, their formation breaking. "It's working," Kate said. "Their systems are scrambled." The pilot didn't wait for orders. The Starlight surged forward, slipping past the disoriented Dravek ships. Once they were clear, the jump drive engaged and the stars stretched into lines as they escaped. When they emerged from the jump, all eyes turned to Zara. "Thank you," Kate said simply. "You saved this ship and everyone on it." Zara's scales flushed with a deeper blue, the Zalarian equivalent of a blush. "I couldn't let you die," she said. "You rescued me." It seemed fair to return. The favor. Heather smiled. "That's how alliances begin," she said. With small acts of trust, the ship continued on its course, now more cautious, monitoring for any signs of pursuit. The attack had changed something, though Zara could feel it. The humans looked at her differently now, not with suspicion but with respect. She had proven herself. Later, when they were alone again, Zara asked Heather the question that had been bothering her since the attack. Why would the Dravek risk attacking a diplomatic vessel? The consequences would be severe if discovered. Heather's expression grew serious. "Because they don't want peace with humans," she said. "And they especially don't want other species making peace with us." The Dravek built their reputation on being the most powerful military force in this sector of space. Our victory over them threatened that reputation. They need the rumors about us to continue. They need other species to fear and avoid us. "So, I was right about one thing," Zara said. "The stories weren't completely false." "No," Heather agreed. "They were based on fear. Real fear. The Dravek are afraid of humans, not because we eat our enemies, but because we defeated them without superior technology or numbers. We improvised, adapted, overcame. That terrifies them more than any monster could." The ship's communication system activated again. Kate's voice coming through. "We're approaching the Freedom ETA 2 hours. Heather, please bring our guest to the briefing room. We need to discuss next steps." Heather stood, offering her hand to Zara as she had in the prison cell. It seemed like a lifetime ago now. "Are you ready to meet more humans?" she asked with a smile. Zara took the offered hand without hesitation. "This time I am," she said. Her people needed to know the truth about humans, whatever that truth might be, and she was beginning to suspect it was far more complex and perhaps far more hopeful than anyone had imagined. The Freedom was unlike any vessel Zara had ever seen. It wasn't a single ship, but rather a massive space station with multiple smaller craft docked around its perimeter. The central structure was shaped like a wheel, slowly rotating to create artificial gravity in its outer sections. Various species moved through its corridors, not just humans, but others. Zara recognized, and some she didn't. "This is our main diplomatic hub in this sector," Heather explained as they walked through a wide corridor. The station's modular design allows us to create environments suitable for nearly any species. We currently host representatives from 27 different worlds. Zara noticed the variety of atmospheres, temperatures, and gravity settings in different sections of the station, each perfectly tailored to its inhabitants, all managed seamlessly by the station systems. The technological achievement was impressive, especially for a species that had only achieved faster than light travel relatively. Recently, they passed a large window overlooking an open area where small plants grew in carefully maintained beds. Some humans were working there, tending to the greenery. "Those are earth plants," Heather said, following Zara's gaze. "We grow them for food and oxygen recycling. This particular garden specializes in medicinal species." Zara paused, looking more closely at the garden. She was a xenobiologist by training, studying life forms across different worlds. The variety of plant life from a single planet was fascinating. "Would you like to visit the gardens later?" Heather asked. Noting Zara's interest, "Yes," Zara replied. "I would like that very much." They continued to a large conference room where several humans were already gathered. Kate was there, along with 4 others Zara hadn't met before. They all looked up as Heather and Zara entered. Ambassador Morgan, another human, greeted Heather. "We received your report about the Kreth detention facility and the subsequent Dravek attack. The security council is quite concerned." Heather nodded, introducing Zara to the group. "This is Zara, a Zalarian scientist who was being held by the Kreth. She helped us escape and later saved the Starlight from Dravek attackers." The humans all looked at Zara with expressions she was learning to recognize as respect and gratitude. "Thank you for your assistance," one of them said, a tall human with dark skin and gray hair. "I'm Admiral Mia Foster, commander of this station." She extended her hand and Zara shook it. Now familiar with the human greeting custom, the others introduced themselves as well. There was Dr. Linda Reeves, Chief Medical Officer Sandra Patel, Head of Diplomatic Relations, Admiral Olivia Green, Military Commander, and Dr. Carol Winters, Lead Xenobiologist. "I understand you're a scientist," Dr. Winters said to Zara. "What is your field of study?" "Xenobiology," Zara replied, focusing her 4 eyes on the human. "I study life forms across different environments with a focus on adaptive evolutionary traits." Dr. Winters smiled. "That's my field as well," she said. "Perhaps while you're here we could compare research. I'd be particularly interested in your perspective on convergent evolution across different worlds." Zara found herself warming to the human scientist. The offer seemed genuine, an opportunity to share knowledge rather than an attempt to extract information. Admiral Foster cleared her throat, bringing the discussion back to more immediate concerns. "The Dravek attack on one of our diplomatic vessels represents a serious escalation," she said. "They've previously avoided direct confrontation, preferring to work through proxies like the Kreth and spreading rumors," Sandra Patel added, with a glance at Zara. "Yes." Heather agreed. "The propaganda campaign has been effective. The question is, what do we do now?" Zara listened as the humans discussed options. They were remarkably open, speaking freely in front of her, despite her being from a species allied with their enemies. They discussed military, Options: diplomatic responses, economic sanctions, but always circled back to the same conclusion. They needed to break through the wall of misinformation. We need more direct communication with other species, Sandra argued, showing them who we really are rather than letting the Dravek define us. Dr. Reeves nodded. Every species that has established relations with us has overcome their initial fears, she said. But first contact is increasingly difficult when everyone expects us to eat them, Buryo added with a wry smile. That's where you might help us, Heather said, turning to Zara. You've seen firsthand that the stories about humans are false. Your testimony could be valuable. Zara considered this. Her position in the Zalarian Science Academy gave her some influence, but would it be enough to counter years of propaganda? And there was another concern. My government might consider me compromised. She admitted. They might believe I've been manipulated or coerced. The humans exchanged glances. What would convince them otherwise? Admiral Foster asked. Evidence, Zara replied. My people respect data, observable facts. If I could bring them proof. What kind of proof? Heather asked. Medical scans showing human biology is incompatible with consuming other sentient species. Zara suggested video documentation of human customs interactions with other species, historical records of first contacts, scientific papers. Dr. Reeves looked thoughtful. We can provide all of that, she said. But would your people even review such information? They would if it came through official channels, Zara said. If a formal diplomatic request was made to the Science Academy, they would be obligated to examine the evidence. Sandra Patel leaned forward. So we need to get you back to your people with our evidence, but in a way that ensures they will actually consider it, rather than dismissing it outright. Admiral Green, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. The Dravek will try to intercept any attempt to return Zara to Zalarian space. They can't afford to let this information reach her people. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Dravek had already demonstrated their willingness to attack a human vessel. Just returning Zara home would be dangerous, let alone with evidence that could undermine years of carefully crafted propaganda. I have an idea, Heather said, finally turning to Zara. Your people have a scientific outpost in the Corvus system, don't they? Yes, Zara confirmed. It's a neutral research facility. Many species work there, including some Dravek, though mostly scientists, not military. That might work, Sandra said, catching Heather's meaning. The outpost is technically in neutral space. The Dravek couldn't openly prevent a diplomatic mission there. And once Zara makes contact with her people's scientific community, they would be obligated to hear her out. Admiral Foster finished. And scientific evidence would have to be evaluated on its merits, regardless of political considerations. It's still risky, Admiral Green cautioned. The Dravek won't give up their narrative easily. No one said it would be easy, Heather replied. But it's a start. She turned to Zara. What do you think? Would this approach work? Zara considered the plan. It had merit. The scientific community might be more receptive than political leaders, especially if presented with compelling evidence. And from the outpost, she could communicate directly with the Science Academy. It could work, she agreed. But we would need substantial evidence. And a way to ensure the Dravek don't interfere. We can handle the Dravek, Admiral. Green said, her expression determined. The discussion continued as they refined the plan. Zara was impressed by the humans' approach. They weren't seeking to impose their will or force other species to accept them. They simply wanted the chance to be judged fairly on facts rather than fear. Later, Heather took Zara to the gardens as promised. The space was larger than it had appeared from the window, divided into sections that recreated different Earth environments. Desert plants with thick waxy leaves grew near water. Loving species with broad green fronds. Temperature and humidity varied between sections, all carefully controlled. Dr. Winters joined them. They're eager to discuss biology with Zara. The human scientist showed her various plants, explaining their properties and uses. Some were medicinal, others provided food or materials for clothing or construction. These evolved on your world? Zara asked, examining a plant with delicate purple flowers. Dr. Winters nodded. Earth has exceptionally high biodiversity compared to most habitable planets. We think it's related to our unusual combination of large oceans, varied climates, and regular but not catastrophic environmental changes that matches my research, Zara said. Stable environments tend to produce fewer but more specialized species, while dynamic environments favor adaptability and diversity. Exactly, Dr. Winters agreed with enthusiasm. It's why humans themselves are so adaptable. We evolved in an environment that required flexibility. As they walked through the gardens, Zara found herself genuinely enjoying the company of the human scientists. They discussed evolutionary theory, ecological adaptation, and the fascinating parallels between life forms that had evolved on completely different worlds. When was the last time you had a conversation like this? With a Dravek, Zara asked suddenly. Dr. Winters looked surprised by the question. Never, she admitted. The Dravek don't share scientific information. They consider it strategic. Zara nodded. That matched her own experience. The Dravek allied with her people but rarely shared knowledge. Their relationship was based on military necessity, not cultural or scientific exchange. That night in her quarters, Zara recorded her observations about the humans. She noted their technological achievements, their social structures, their apparent commitment to peaceful coexistence. When possible, she documented their biology, based on the medical information Dr. Reeves had provided confirming that. The Corvus scientific outpost hung in space orbiting a gas giant with spectacular rings. The facility was built in a rough hexagonal shape with different sections devoted to various research disciplines. Unlike military or political installations, the outpost welcomed diverse species united by their commitment to scientific discovery. It was one of the few truly neutral locations in this sector of space. The human diplomatic vessel approached cautiously. Its design was deliberately non-threatening, sleek and elegant rather than bristling with weapons. Zara stood on the bridge beside Heather, watching as the outpost grew larger in the view screen. Her 4 hearts beat rapidly with a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. We're being hailed, Kate announced from her position at the communications station on screen. Admiral Foster ordered. The view screen changed, showing a Zalarian face. Zara recognized immediately. Dr. Nelmar, the director of the outpost, and a respected figure in the Zalarian scientific community. His scales paled slightly when he saw Zara standing among the humans. Zara, is that you? He asked, his voice betraying his shock. We received reports that you had been captured by the Krethi, was Dr. Nelmar. Zara confirmed. These humans rescued me. The older Zalarian's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession, a sign of confusion or disbelief. He looked at the humans, then back to Zara. Rescued, he repeated. Yes, Zara said. And I have learned things about humans, things that contradict everything we have been told. I request permission to dock and present my findings to the Scientific Council. There was a long pause. Dr. Nelmar seemed to be considering her request. Finally, he nodded. Permission. Granted, he said. But he added, looking at the humans. Our security protocols require that only Zara may disembark. The rest of you must remain on your vessel. Admiral Foster stepped forward. I am Admiral Mia Foster, commander of this diplomatic mission. I understand your concerns, Doctor, but I formally request that Ambassador Morgan be permitted to accompany Dr. Zara as an official representative of Earth. Another long pause. Then Dr. Nelmar nodded. Very well. He conceded Ambassador Morgan may accompany Zara. But only one human. The rest must remain aboard your ship. Thank you, Dr. Nelmar, Admiral Foster said with a respectful nod. The communication ended and preparations for docking began. Zara and Heather were taken to a small shuttle that would transport them to the outpost. Kate insisted on accompanying them to the shuttle bay. Be careful, she told Heather. We'll be monitoring your communications. If anything seems wrong, we'll extract you immediately. Heather nodded. Thank you, Kate, she said, placing a hand on the other woman's shoulder. I'm not expecting trouble. The scientific community tends to be more open-minded than the military or political establishments. Kate didn't look convinced, but she stepped back, allowing Zara and Heather to board the shuttle. The journey to the outpost was brief. The docking procedure went smoothly, and soon they were walking through the airlock into the outpost itself. Dr. Nelmar was waiting for them, accompanied by two other Zalarians who Zara recognized as security personnel. They wore no weapons, visible evidence of the outpost's peaceful nature, but their posture was alert, wary. "Welcome back, Dr. Zara," Dr. Nelmar said formally. Then turning to Heather, Ambassador Morgan, "Welcome to the Corvus outpost. I must admit you are the first human to visit our facility." Heather bowed slightly. A gesture she had learned was respectful in Zalarian culture. "I am honored by your hospitality, Dr. Nelmar," she said. "I come in peace, seeking only understanding." The older Zalarian studied her for a moment, then gestured for them to follow. "We have arranged a meeting of the Scientific Council," he said. "They are eager to hear your account, Zara." As they walked through the corridors of the outpost, Zara noticed other species watching them, with obvious curiosity and in some cases fear. A pair of Dravek scientists stood near a laboratory entrance, their posture stiffening as they noticed Heather. Their eyes followed the human with unmistakable hostility. The Scientific Council chamber was a large room with seating arranged in tiered semicircles. Representatives from various species were already gathered there: Zalarian, Morven, Krill, and several others. Zara noted the absence of any Dravek Council members. Dr. Nelmar called the meeting to order, explaining briefly who Zara was and the circumstances of her arrival with a human diplomat. The council members listened, some with obvious skepticism, others with curiosity. Then it was Zara's turn to speak. She stood before the council, her scales shifting slightly with nervousness, but her voice steady. "3 months ago, I was captured by Kreth forces while conducting research near their territory," she began. "I was held in a detention facility until Ambassador Morgan was also captured. The Kreth placed us in the same cell, perhaps hoping we would harm each other, based on the stories they had heard about humans." She continued describing her experience with Heather, how the human had treated her with kindness, how Heather and her team had rescued her at risk to themselves. She explained about the starlight and the freedom, the gardens, the medical information, all evidence contradicting the narrative that humans were dangerous predators who consumed other sentient beings. When she mentioned the Dravek attack on the human diplomatic vessel, murmurs spread through the council. "Do you have evidence of this attack?" one of the Morven counselors asked. His tone was not accusatory but cautious. Zara nodded. Heather had provided her with data recordings from the Starlight's sensors. She presented these now, showing the unprovoked attack by Dravek warships on a clearly marked diplomatic vessel. "This is concerning," another counselor said, "a Krill female with iridescent scales. If the Dravek are attacking diplomatic ships, that violates multiple treaties. The evidence is fabricated." A voice called from the entrance to the chamber. All eyes turned to see 3 Dravek entering the room, their military uniforms marking them as something other than scientists. Their presence here was unusual. The outpost welcomed scientific personnel, but military officers rarely visited. The lead Dravek, a tall, imposing figure with scarred facial plates, stepped forward. "This Zalarian has been compromised," he announced. "She has spent too long among the humans. They are known for their ability to manipulate other species." The council chamber erupted in discussion, some voices raised in protest, others in agreement. Zara looked to Heather, who remained calm, her expression neutral. Dr. Nelmar called for order. When the room quieted, he addressed the Dravek commander Varex. "You are welcome to observe these proceedings, but this council operates on evidence, not accusations. Do you have evidence that contradicts Dr. Zara's account?" The Dravek commander's eyes narrowed. "These humans attacked a Dravek research vessel without provocation," he claimed. "They consumed the crew. We have recordings." He produced a data crystal, inserting it into the chamber's central projector. A recording began to play, showing what appeared to be humans boarding a Dravek vessel. Their movements were jerky, aggressive. They attacked the Dravek crew with savage efficiency. The recording ended with a particularly disturbing scene, suggesting the humans had indeed consumed their victims. The chamber fell silent. Zara felt a sinking sensation. Had she been wrong? Were the stories true after all? She looked at Heather, seeking some explanation. Heather stood calmly. "May I examine this?" "Recording," she asked, her voice steady. The Dravek commander smiled, a predatory expression. "You wish to see your kind's true nature?" "Human." Heather approached the projector without responding. She studied the recording for several moments, then turned to face the council. "This recording has been altered," she said simply. The Dravek commander made a dismissive gesture. "You have no proof of that." "But I do." Heather replied. She tapped a few commands into the projector system. The recording played again, but this time she paused it at specific moments, highlighting anomalies in the image. "These shadows don't match the lighting configuration," she pointed out. "And here the movement patterns are inconsistent with human physiology. The proportions are wrong." She continued, identifying multiple technical flaws in the recording evidence of manipulation. Dr. Nelmar and several other scientists moved closer, examining the details Heather had highlighted. "This is indeed concerning," Dr. Nelmar said. "After several minutes of investigation, the recording shows signs of extensive manipulation." The Dravek commander's expression hardened. "Lies," he spat. "The human is deceiving you." Heather remained calm. "This can be verified by your own technical experts." She said, "I welcome their analysis." Before the commander could respond, another Dravek entered the chamber. This one wore the markings of a scientist, not a military officer. "Commander Varex," he said urgently, "we have a situation that requires your immediate attention." The commander hesitated, looking from the scientist to Heather to Zara, then back to Dr. Nelmar. "This matter is not concluded," he said before following his subordinate from the chamber. His two companions went with him. Once they were gone, Zara approached the projector, studying the recording more closely. Heather was right. The evidence had been fabricated, and not particularly well. Any scientist with training in digital analysis could see the flaws. The council seemed to reach the same conclusion. "Evidence of deception is itself evidence," Dr. Nelmar said, "especially when contrasted with the verifiable data Dr. Zara has provided."